As with the previous two case studies, I would be looking at various story elements of Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception, and discussing the validity of them. The storyline in this game comes full circle with the first as it delves into Nathan Drake's past and offers a slight insight as to where he got his name from. It pretty much all but admits that it is unlikely that Nathan is a descendant of Sir Francis Drake, which I discussed in the first case study. Drake's Deception, like the first two games, starts off with a quote from history. In this game, it is credited to T.E. Lawrence and reads, "All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night, in the dusty recesses of their minds, wake in the day to find it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did." This quote, like the others, is genuine. It is from the introduction to Lawrence's autobiography called The Seven Pillars of Wisdom, originally published in 1922. The game mentions that when Drake returned to England from circumnavigating the globe, Queen Elizabeth gave him a ring to commemorate the event and also made him a knight. In actuality, Drake was given a gift from Queen Elizabeth, however it was a jewel with the Queen's portrait on it. This jewel can be seen in Drake's 1591 portrait by Marcus Gerards, but it is true that Drake was in fact knighted in 1581 aboard his ship the Golden Hind, though the actual dubbing was performed by Monsieur de Marchemont. Jonty was an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. He was also, among many things, a mathematician, navigator, astronomer, and an alchemist. When signing documents to the Queen, he would mark them with two circles and then an elongated 7, meaning they were for her eyes only. This is exactly how it is depicted in the game. Nathan Drake states that before T.E. Lawrence was known as Lawrence of Arabia, he was an archaeologist who was obsessed with history. He also claims that Lawrence traveled the world documenting every Crusader site he could find. This is pretty much true. Lawrence studied history at Jesus College, and in 1909 he did a walking tour of the Crusader castles in Ottoman Syria. As for Lawrence stating that if he ever went back to Arabia it would be to search for a place called the Atlantis of the Sands, this is possibly true. Whether or not to use those exact words is not known. However, it is documented that Lawrence did plan on searching for Iram of the Pillars, and even suggested that the best way to do so would be by air, though he never actually did. Iram of the Pillars in Drake's Deception is described as a city of immeasurable wealth that was destroyed by God for its arrogance and believed to be situated in the middle of the Ruba Kali Desert. One of the things that sets Iram of the Pillars apart from some, but certainly not all legends, is that it is mentioned in a holy book, in this case the Quran. In chapter 89, verses 6 to 14 read, "Have you noted what your Lord did to Ad? Iram, the town with tall buildings. There was nothing like it anywhere. Also Thamud, who carved the rocks in their valley, and Pharaoh, who possessed might. They all transgressed in the land. They spread evil throughout. Consequently, your Lord poured upon them a whipping retribution. Your Lord is ever watchful." This states that Iran and some other civilizations were punished. However, it does not specifically state they were destroyed. Could this mean that the city or remnants of the city still exist today? Explorer Nicholas Knapp, along with Ranulph Fiennes, Joris Zarins, and George Hedges, claimed to have found Ubar in the Shisha district of Dhofar, Oman. Though in 2002, it was revealed that the NASA satellite information they were using to find Ubar was not accurate. In his 2004 book, geologist H. Stewart Edgell noted that the Ruba Kali Desert has been a sand dune for the last 6,000 years where nothing could have been built. Taking all this into consideration, if Ubar did exist, it would have to be more than 6,000 years old, especially if we take the common belief that it is in the Ruba Kali Desert, which puts it much older than the 3,000 years suggested in Drake's Deception. I would believe that Iram of the Pillars did exist, and that it may very well still do, or at least parts of it, though my guess would be that it is buried so far under the desert sand that the chances of ever finding it are slim to none. But of course, never say never. Being a Protestant ruler meant that Queen Elizabeth I was under constant threat of being overthrown by Catholic conspirators. To help combat this, she employed Francis Walsingham, a qualified lawyer and devout Protestant, to develop a spy network. It was then Walsingham and his spies that intercepted and mitigated a plot involving Mary Queen of Scots. This led to the execution of Mary and her conspirator, Anthony Babington. Although Walsingham was in service to Queen Elizabeth, the spy network was largely, if not entirely, self-funded by Walsingham. Queen Elizabeth I did not trust Walsingham and was not close to him, considering that she was close with Jonty, Francis Drake, and another gentleman named William Cecil, who was also involved in information gathering. It makes it somewhat unlikely that they were all part of a secret society as suggested by Charlie Cutter in the game. Having said that, bearing in mind that Jonty was seriously into the occult, it is not unthinkable that there was some kind of secret order. If there was, I doubt Walsingham was a part of it. Or perhaps Queen Elizabeth's distrust was just for the benefit of historians. The legend of the Jinn goes back thousands of years. They appear in both Quranic and biblical texts. They were created from a smokeless fire, or a blazing fire. This seems to vary, perhaps depending on how words are translated. Jinn, like humans, have free will and can decide to be either good or bad, and as such, like humans, would also be either rewarded or punished by God at the end of their life. They are also believed to inhabit the earth, or parts of the earth. However, under normal circumstances, they cannot be seen by humans, though if a Jinn wishes to, they can reveal themselves to people. Some would say that if a person has claimed to have seen a ghost, they most likely saw a Jinn and took it for a spectre. The story that Salim tells of King Solomon is mostly true according to some stories. Solomon trapped a Jinn inside a brass bottle. However, it was not Ubar where he threw the bottle, but into the sea.